Tarsus, Turkey. It is not merely a city, it is a massive, suffocating repository of buried time. For over 10,000 years, this intersection of the ancient world has swallowed entire civilizations whole. Romans, Ottomans, Crusaders, and forgotten empires, they all built their monuments, their temples, and their vaults directly upon the bones of those who came before them. The streets here are old, uneven, and the soil itself is heavy with whispers. History is not past in Tarsus. It is simply waiting in the dark. But to understand the true shadow of this city, you must understand its most famous native son, Saul of Tarsus, known to the world as St. Paul the Apostle. St. Paul is the architect of modern Christianity. He took a localized belief system and transformed it into a global religion, shaping the texts, the doctrines, and the very foundation of the Vatican. But historians have long whispered a dangerous question. What if Paul hid something here? What if, beneath the soil of his birthplace, an original uncorrupted text was buried? A text that predates the Council of Nicaea. A text that contradicts the established doctrines of Rome. For centuries, this was merely a ghost story for theologians. Until November of 2014. In a completely ordinary working-class residential neighborhood known as 82 Evler, one unassuming structure, referred to locally as the Kırmızı Ev, or the Red House, became the epicenter of a terrifying, reality-bending anomaly. It began with an invisible wall, then a wall of blue. Overnight, the entire structure, the street, and several surrounding buildings were completely engulfed. Deplorable, cheap blue tarps were stretched over colossal, heavy-duty metal scaffolding, blocking the sky, the sun, and the eyes of the public. They created an improvised above-ground sarcophagus. This was not a standard archaeological dig. There were no academic supervisors, no university professors with delicate brushes, no public records of any historical discovery, and no cataloging of artifacts. It was a covert industrial-scale extraction. And the perimeter of this extraction was not secured by local patrol officers or private security. The guards were members of the elite Özel Harekat, the special operations units of the Turkish National Police. Heavily armed with tactical gear, body armor, and automatic assault rifles, they patrolled the narrow, dusty alleys of 82 Evler with an intensity usually reserved for active war zones. Snipers were stationed on adjacent rooftops, their scopes fixed on anyone who lingered too long near the blue tarps. National television stations were legally blocked from broadcasting any news from the street. An absolute media blackout was enforced. A member of parliament, a high-ranking government official, who attempted to use his constitutional authority to enter the area, was physically barricaded, surrounded by armed guards, and turned away. The silence of the state was deafening. Every official denial, every refused interview only confirmed one absolute, terrifying truth. The secret buried beneath that mundane red house was powerful enough to mobilize the entire intelligence and military apparatus of the nation. Without information, Tarsus choked on its own rumors. A lost tomb that would collapse the theological foundations of three major religions, a dimensional rift, extraterrestrial technology recovered from antiquity. But there are no grand theories in Tarsus without blood. The shadow that looms over the 82 Evler mystery began long before the blue tarps were ever erected. It began in the dark corners of the city's underworld, with a man named Mithat Erdal. Erdal was a police officer. He had an athletic build, a sharp mind, and a very dangerous clandestine second life. According to intelligence sources, Erdal was not just a street cop. He was a deep cover informant for MIT, the Turkish National Intelligence Organization. His assignment was terrifying. He was embedded deep within a massive, highly organized historical artifact smuggling syndicate. This was not a group of petty thieves digging in the dirt. This syndicate operated like a ghost cartel under the ancient city. They used advanced ground-penetrating radar, military-grade excavation equipment, and possessed a terrifying network of international buyers. Erdal earned their trust. He descended into the subterranean tunnels they carved beneath the modern streets. And in early 2012, Officer Erdal frantically reported to his intelligence handlers that the smugglers had breached something impossible. They had located a sealed subterranean chamber, and inside that chamber they did not find gold or statues or ancient weapons. They found the ultimate prize. It was a pristine, untouched text, wrapped in ancient leather. Erdal claimed it was an uncorrupted Insil, an original Bible, potentially the lost Gospel of Barnabas, or perhaps a text written by St. Paul himself. He claimed it was a document completely untouched by centuries of Vatican editing, a text that contained secrets about the true birth and mechanics of Christianity, secrets that could unravel the authority of the Church in a single day. Erdal claimed the smuggling syndicate knew exactly what they had found. They knew its value wasn't in gold, but in epistemological blackmail. And more terrifyingly, Erdal reported that foreign intelligence agents had already been contacted. He knew the Vatican knew. Officer Erdal realized he was running out of time. The paranoia of living a double life was crushing him. His cover was blown, or at least he suspected it was. In his final desperate contacts with his intelligence handlers, he begged for immediate extraction and protection. He told his superiors verbatim, "My blood is on this book." On January 28, 2012, long before the blue tarps blocked out the sun, Mithat Erdal was found dead in his apartment in Tarsus. A single gunshot wound to the head. The official cause of death was declared almost immediately. Suicide by his own service weapon. The case was closed with a devastating unnatural speed. The local authorities deemed it an open and shut case of a depressed officer taking his own life. But the physical evidence was completely baffling. It was a forensic paradox. It was indeed his service weapon found at the scene, but there were absolutely no fingerprints on the trigger or the grip. The gun had been wiped clean. Furthermore, Officer Erdal was strictly right-handed, yet the bullet trajectory showed it entered the left side of his skull, an impossibly awkward and highly unlikely angle for a suicide. His wife, his family, and his covert handlers did not believe the suicide narrative for a single second. They publicly claimed that the smuggling syndicate had intercepted his final messages, executed him in his own home, and staged the scene to suppress the discovery of the subterranean chamber. They silenced the informant to protect the book. And then, as if to erase all remaining physical traces, the Kermaza'ev started to burn. Following Erdal's suspicious execution, the property above the suspected tomb was mysteriously purchased by unknown wealthy buyers from outside the city. but nobody ever moved in. In 2016, the empty house caught fire, not once, but twice. Reduced to a blackened, structurally compromised shell, the civilian footprint was erased. The stage was set. The state finally made its move. The special forces arrived. The heavy concrete barricades were dropped onto the streets. The massive blue tarps were erected, hiding the sky and choking the neighborhood in an artificial twilight. The government had clearly decided to officially, yet covertly, excavate what Officer Erdal had died to expose. And for 300 grueling days, the abyss beneath that scorched house was guarded like a weapon of mass destruction. 300 days. While the country outside Tarsus suffered through political turmoil, international crises and chaos, the perimeter in 82 Evler never faltered. The snipers never left the roof. The blue tarps never ripped. The psychological toll on the neighborhood was immense. Residents of 82 Evler reported terrifying phenomena. They felt the ground shaking violently at night, deep, rhythmic tremors that cracked the foundations of adjacent homes. They reported severe electromagnetic interference. Cell phones lost service entirely, and household electronics flickered and died without explanation. Some locals claimed to look through tiny gaps in the tarps at 3 a.m., witnessing heavily secured metallic lockboxes being loaded into unmarked, armored black SUVs. They saw figures entering the perimeter wearing full hazmat suits or strange, academic-looking robes, escorted by intelligence officers. Whatever they were pulling out of the earth, it required extreme biological, radiological, or theological caution. Then, in November 2017, exactly 1 year after the tarps went up, the operation abruptly stopped. The specialized armed guards were suddenly withdrawn, vanishing like ghosts. The massive concrete barricades were lifted by cranes. The infamous blue tarps were finally dismantled, exposing the naked dirt to the sun once more. The National Intelligence Organization, alongside the local prosecutor's office, provided a concluding official statement to the press. The entire nation held its breath. What ancient paradigm-shifting power had they unearthed in the depths of Tarsus? The official press release stated that in 300 days of covert military-guarded excavation, utilizing elite state resources and maintaining a total media blackout, all they had located was 1 bronze coin and several small insignificant pieces of broken ceramic pottery. The entire country felt collectively insulted. 1 coin, 300 days of elite military perimeter, snipers, intelligence oversight, diplomatic pressure, suppressed politicians, and neighborhood lockdowns. For shattered ceramics? The government's insultingly brief statement did not solve the mystery. It merely forced the truth deeper into the void. The mathematics of the operation simply did not align with the narrative of broken pottery. Neighbors reported that the empty dirt pit left behind after the tarps came down was unimaginably massive, far larger than a simple trench or a well. Its dimensions suggested that an entire underground complex, perhaps multiple subterranean temples or chambers, had been systematically and completely cleared out. Witnesses claimed that the midnight convoys leaving the city the night before the official announcement were weighted down heavily, their suspensions groaning under the pressure, carrying crates much larger and heavier than a single bronze coin. Officer Mithat Erdal's blood was spilled for that book. Where is it now? Did the state secure an artifact so dangerous to the global religious status quo that its existence had to be wiped from reality? Was it handed over to the Vatican in a covert multi-billion-dollar diplomatic exchange to maintain the stability of the Christian world? Or did they find something older? Something that predates religion entirely? Or perhaps, as the skeptics claim, they truly found nothing. Perhaps they followed a false lead, and the illusion of a secret is simply the greatest weapon a state can wield to project absolute power. But Officer Mithat Erdal did not shoot himself in the left side of his head with a wiped gun for an illusion. If you walk through the 82 Evler neighborhood today, it looks completely normal. The red house is gone. The blue tarps are a fading memory in the minds of the locals. The massive void in the earth has been filled with dirt, gravel, and concrete. But Turkey has a long, dark history of deep state operations, where truth is always the first casualty of national security. The true Tarsus cipher remains unbroken. What do you think they pulled out of that pit? A gospel that rewrites history, ancient technology, or just the broken dreams of a murdered cop? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Subscribe to the Archives of Blood.